This is Brian with ScreenFiles.com in review. What I'm looking at today is 2016's Train to Busan, directed by Sang-ho Yeon. And I apologize in advance if I'm butchering his name. Though, to begin, this is not a zombie movie. Because, as the great George Romero showed us, zombies don't run. This is more in line with movies like 28 Days Later, like The Night Eats the World, like Zack Snyder's reboot of Dawn of the Dead. In which case it's more in the vein of infected movies, which, oh yes, I forgot to mention Ref, by the way, great movie. So it's more in that vein. It is not a zombie movie. In any case, Train to Busan came in 2016, 3 years after World War Z. And this movie is very reminiscent of that one. In the case of the way the zombies act, their speed, their rubberiness. By which I mean, there are scenes in this movie where people, when they become zombies, their bodies move in odd ways. Most of the time it seems very practical. It's as if you have some type of contortionist or athlete making these movements, and it looks very unsettling and it's pretty creepy. So it seems very much inspired by World War Z. But the thing is, what makes it probably the best, or among the best at any rate, of the infected movies is that it has an emotional core, which is missing from most movies like it. It revolves around this executive in Korea who is separated from his wife and has a daughter. He is very much all about his business and nothing else particularly matters. And he is taking his daughter on a trip to Busan where I want to say his wife, I'm not sure they're actually still married, but in any case his significant other is. And that's when things pretty much go off the rails. And what's most fascinating about this movie is that it's primarily a character study with infected. So you start seeing different types of people and you see lots of growth and change in those people. And that's what makes it interesting. It has such a frenetic and kinetic style to it. It's always moving. And I've seen very few movies like this in that it just never really stops. Most of the action primarily is set aboard a train. And the title probably gives that away. But the thing is, the train stops at stations. So they get out, they get on, things happen, and the train just keeps on moving. It's a great platform for action because we see almost a microcosm of humanity represented in this train. You have all sorts of people. Selfish people, kind people, caring people. So it's interesting. And as I said, you don't see this a lot. Though the perspective of the movie is somewhat pessimistic in a lot of ways. In particular, there's a Chinese man who is the epitome of capitalism. In the sense that, and I think that's quite deliberate on the movie's part, in the sense that only he matters. Nothing else does. And time and again, everyone who helps this person dies. He will throw you to the wolves if it will save his life. And he has no sense of decency or honor. A very much 20th century man, to say the least. As I said, Train to Busan is one of the best movies of its type because it's not about infected. And I refuse to call this a zombie movie because it isn't. Though it's not about the infected per se. It's about the people who are under siege by the infected, which is not something you often see that's as well done as this in these movies. Most of the characters are very well thought out, though the most impressive thing is it's done through their actions, not through exposition. There's no one describing what a person is or is not. people are acting, and through their action you come to understand them, and in some instances really care about them. Train to Busan is probably, as I keep repeating, one of the best movies of its type. Well worth your time. It's currently free, streaming on Tubi, and I suggest you check it out. And by the way, I should mention that it's streaming dubbed as well as subtitled on Tubi. And I can't speak for anyone else, but I cannot watch dubbed movies anymore. When growing up, I found them amusing, particularly Chinese martial arts movies. Those were always interesting. But as I've grown older, I come to understand that people have voices, which seems fairly obvious. If the voice of the person dubbed doesn't match the actual voice of the person, I can pick up on it. I don't quite know how, but I can. And it feels very off to me and very weird. And I think I watched the dubbed version of Train to Busan for probably not even 3 minutes before I had to turn it off. It is that annoying. So if you're like me, watch the subtitled version. It's pretty good, and it's well worth it. This is Brian with ScreenFiles.com and Review. Do you agree? Disagree? Let me know down below. And as usual, consider a like or a follow. Peace.